Good morning. It's far too early. Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's the 1st of January 2022. Grey. That's getting better. Didn't have a late one last night, but there was some alcohol involved. So the first thing you want to do is get up early and go out and play with the car. That seems reasonable. So today's plan: carburettor rebuild. Strip it off the car. It's just a few bolts. I'll show you how to do that. And we'll get it on the workbench and get it thoroughly degreased and cleaned up. So because it's not been given much attention since I got the car running. So that's the plan anyway. That's the plan. Talk to you in a bit. Right, so we're now in the garage. This is George, my Mark II 1979 Austin Allegro. He's fitted with a 1275cc engine and an SU carburettor. So I'll lift the bonnet and I can show you what's going on underneath. Right, apologies about the lighting in here. It's pretty dark without any natural light coming in, so you just have to bear with me. So airbox on the top there, that comes off with 2 wing nuts, so we'll just get on with that now. Put that out of the way. So here we are. This is a SU carburettor. This particular one has the wax stat at the bottom there. That comes off the bottom of the jet and is, I believe, temperature controlled, just to give a more economical fueling. It's like an aid to the choke, if you like. This is your throttle linkage, and that's your choke cable, which is operated manually from inside the car. 4 bolts retain to, or sometimes 2 bolts retain to the back of the manifold here. And this particular one has still got its original heat shield intact, which I'm going to try and preserve if I can. But they often break when you take them apart. Bring you around to the other side of the carburettor. You have a separate float bolt, which is this unit here. This bolts onto the side of the carburettor body. And this is where your fuel comes in. There's a little float inside that cup there. So we're going to get to that and clean it all out, because I suspect it's pretty dirty inside. So first thing I'm doing is disconnecting the vacuum lines. They just pull off. So I'll get that out of the way. So first thing I'm doing is just removing the linkage to the choke. Just pull out, which it does. Be careful not to fray the cable, because it was a nightmare putting those back on. And the same for the throttle linkage. Remove that and put that safely out of the way. Next I'm going to disconnect the fuel input feed, which is just a single pipe to the top of the car. And all you need for that is a screwdriver. Gloves might be a good idea at this point. Sometimes you just need a bit of persuasion to get them off, so let's just open this clip up a bit more. There we go. Again, put that safely out of the way. Vacuum advance pipe, that just pulls off. Again, put it out of the way. Right. I can now see, let's bring the camera in a second. Bolt there, and I think this one has just 2 bolts on it, so there's one there and then one round the back, which I can't get my hand to at the moment. Oh yeah, and one could take the throttle spring off as well. Just get that out of the way. Throttle spring. It sounds like I just dropped something. Brilliant. You need a 1/2 inch spanner or 13mm. That came off way too easily. What I'm hoping to do is save this gasket, because they can break, so you have to be very careful with that. So there's not a lot that holds this to the body, it's just these 2 bolts. I'm just removing the last washer on that. There's my spanner gone. Let's try and get underneath here and get the other one off, and get it started at least. Okay. Yeah, so just undo these 2 bolts, and then we should be able to get the body of the carburettor off and onto the workbench. We can have a look at it. There we go. One carburettor. So with the carb out the way, you can see there's a plastic spacer here and the remains of a paper gasket. I'm going to scrape all that off and make sure the surface is nice and clean and dry for the new gasket. And that's the heat shield, which I'm going to leave in place, I think. So we'll get onto the workbench now and have a proper look at what's going on. Right, so now that's off the car, that's going to give me much better access to get to all the nooks and crannies and give it a decent clean up. I'm going to use a fibre brush rather than a wire brush, because it's not so abrasive. That'll just help me clean up the body there. And then I'm going to give it a good soaking in carburettor cleaner. Once I've done that, we can look at the jet, the needle, the piston. I'm going to clean the wax stat up there, and then onto some gaskets. So that's for the fuel bowl. That retains the lid there to the body of the fuel bowl. And then we've got some gaskets for the back where it mates up to the manifold. So without further ado, I'm going to get grubby and do some cleaning. So first thing I'm going to do is undo the, oh, that was quite loose, undo the lid of the fuel bowl. Carefully keeping all the screws to one side so we don't lose them later. Yeah, there's some pretty manky fuel in there, so I'm going to tip all that out and then get some parts cleaner in there. Also remove that dry dead gasket, because that's I think seen better days. Nice when it all comes apart. Put those screws away, some would say. Let's bring you in for a closer view. It doesn't actually look that bad, but then I have put some cleaner through that previously. But that's going to want a decent clean up, as will the piston with needle attached. And then obviously you've got a damping spring which just goes there between the piston and the lid. Make sure you do this in a well ventilated area, obviously, because it's not toxic, but you won't be breathing this stuff in. What you don't want to do is use anything abrasive on the actual piston itself, because it makes a seal. So I'm just going to give this a gentle wipe, nothing more. And just like that, we have some clean carburettor parts. What took the longest was removing the old gasket remains from the float bowl lid. You need to pay particular attention to that because it obviously makes a fuel tight seal. And now we're on to the job of reassembly. Let's see how this goes. Put the piston back, dampening spring, and lid. Just get this done back up, and then obviously once it's back in the car we need to put some oil in there to help with the piston. Right, float chamber gasket. This is the fun bit. So I've got some new gaskets here. This just creates a seal between the lid and the base of the body. I'm sure I don't cut my hands. I've got two because I like to have a spare of these things just in case it all goes wrong. And what you can see here. I wonder what Elon Musk is doing today. Not playing with SU carburettors, I can guess. I'm just going to crack off the screws again just to locate everything, make sure it's all lined up. That looks about right. We can go for a tighten down. Make sure those are nipped up, which they are. Don't want to over tighten it because you can crush the gasket, but at the same time you don't want it to leak. Right. That's now ready to go back in the car. Right, old gasket removed, new gasket in place, so time to bolt the carburettor back on. Get that into place. Followed by a washer. Followed by the first nut. Right, carburettor's back together, all linkages reattached. I've all the dash pots, that's ready to go, so just a question now of turning the key and seeing if she'll fire. Right, we'll probably take a minute or two for the fuel to reach the carburettor, and obviously we need to be checking for leaks, so let's do that. Choke out, a couple of pumps of the throttle. And there we go. And there we go, that's better. Just took a while for the fuel to get to the carburettor, but that's a lot better now. Now we filled the float chamber, the level's settled and should be fine. I'm going to pop out now and just check for leaks, of course, because we don't want that. Well, obviously she's running on choke at the moment. Vacuum advance wasn't connected. Probably come off choke now. That's better. No fuel leaks, wonderful. Always a bonus. I might have to adjust the mixture at some point, but she's idling okay. I call that job done. Right, I think that's going to do it for this video. Thanks ever so much for watching, guys, and Happy New Year. See you in the next one.